Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're diving into something absolutely critical, the high-stakes reality of running a fast-growing business in San Francisco in 2026. Look, if you're running an AI startup over in Soma, or maybe a massive fintech company in the financial district, you already know the drill. You're dealing with this crazy volatile mix of global exposure, absolute mountains of sensitive data, and infrastructure that's scaling way faster than your team can even document it, right? And in this kind of environment, a breach isn't just a financial hit, it's an existential threat. It's game over. So we're going to break down exactly who protects these companies best right now and exactly how you should be evaluating them.
Okay, let's dive into this. Because this question on the screen right now, it represents a total shift in how we need to think about infrastructure today. For the longest time, right, so many companies just treated security like a checklist. Just buy enough tools, pass the audit, and move on. But the source material for today's explainer argues that true security is actually architectural. I mean, think about it. Just throwing a bunch of fancy dashboards at a fundamentally broken system, that is definitely not going to save you when a sophisticated attack hits. Or honestly, when an M&A due diligence team starts looking under the hood.
So here's our executive roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. The Bay Area threat, 2. Navigating the compliance maze, 3. How to choose a partner, 4. Top cybersecurity firms compared, 5. The architecture first advantage, and finally, number 6. Securing your future. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. The Bay Area Threat.
Look, San Francisco companies are operating at the absolute bleeding edge, which, paints a giant target on their backs globally. The attack surface is huge, and it's expanding literally every single day. The guide points out a massive spike in very specific, highly modern attacks as we move through 2025 and into 2026. We are way past basic viruses here. We're talking threat actors launching cloud-native exploits specifically targeting Kubernetes clusters and IAM, identity and access management roles. They're actually using LLMs to whip up these incredibly convincing, hyper-personalized phishing campaigns. It's wild. And for you AI startups out there, there's a really scary rise in AI model poisoning within MLOps pipelines. Plus, ransomware isn't just locking up computers anymore. It's going directly after DevOps credentials right inside your CI/CD pipelines. It is a highly sophisticated threat environment out there. So let's see how this all feeds into the regulatory response. Which brings us to Section 2, Navigating the Compliance Maze. So because these threats have evolved so aggressively, regulators and enterprise buyers have basically responded with overwhelming force. And falling behind here, it doesn't just mean you might get hacked, it means getting completely locked out of the market. Just look at the sheer density of this compliance matrix. If you're collecting consumer data in California, CCPA and CPRA carry major class action risks. If you're a SaaS company trying to sell to the enterprise, good luck without a SOC 2 Type 2. It's essentially mandatory just to get through procurement. Touching medical data, HIPAA enforcement can hit you with massive, company-ending legal penalties. Oh, and if you're publicly traded, the SEC cyber rules now dictate that you have exactly 96 hours to disclose an incident. 96 hours! The pressure from regulators and investors is just immense right now. Strict compliance and M&A diligence can literally make or break a funding round in a heartbeat. And this brilliantly illustrates the real-world cost of getting it wrong. The guide shares this totally anonymized but very real story of a health AI startup right in the Bay Area. They had a $1.1 million funding round completely withdrawn. Pulled. Just like that. And why? Because they had a breach that started from reused shared API tokens. It triggered an OCR HIPAA investigation, the investors got spooked, and they just walked away. The deal dropped dead. And there are other examples too, like a legal SaaS company facing lawsuits because they didn't enforce SAML, or a fintech platform that had to do a massive emergency PR scramble because their credentials got exposed in their CI logs. It's brutal out there.
All right, Section 3. How to choose a partner.
So, how exactly are business leaders supposed to navigate this absolute minefield? Well, you need a partner. Not just a software vendor who sells you a tool and vanishes. The guide outlines the exact criteria executives need to evaluate when picking a cybersecurity firm in 2026. Basically, these are your 6 non-negotiables. Number 1, multi-framework audit experience. Your partner has to know SOC 2, ISO, and HIPAA like the back of their hand. 2, a cloud-native security focus. They need to speak fluent cloud hardening across AWS, GCP, and Azure. Reading off some old-school IT checklist just isn't going to cut it anymore. 3rd is vendor independence. 4th, board-ready reporting, meaning they can translate technical cyber risk into actual business risk for your executives. 5th is M&A due diligence support, which is an absolute lifesaver if firms like Sequoia or Andreessen Horowitz are auditing your books. And finally, number 6, you need direct access to senior architects. Not just being routed to some junior help desk analyst when things hit the fan.
So the crucial point is this whole concept of vendor independence. The source material highlights a pretty massive conflict of interest in the industry right now. A lot of managed security service providers, or MSSPs, actually make quiet back-end revenue from reselling software tools. It creates this built-in commission bias. Think about it. They're financially motivated to recommend the tools that pay them the best commission, not necessarily the ones that protect your specific architecture the best. What you really need is a vendor-neutral advisory partner. Someone who recommends solutions based purely on what your architecture actually needs, completely free from any of that financial bias.
Moving on to Section 4, Top Cybersecurity Firms Compared.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that armed with those criteria we just talked about, we can actually look at the playing field and make a truly strategic choice. When you categorize the top players by their absolute best use case, it becomes incredibly clear that there is no one-size-fits-all here. For example, CrowdStrike, they are the undeniable heavyweight for endpoint protection and threat hunting. Synack is your go-to for crowdsourced red teaming, while BugCrowd absolutely dominates the bug bounty and agile testing space. Then you've got Mandiant, which is now part of Google Cloud, and they are exactly who you call for elite incident response after a major breach happens. Trusted Sec offers fantastic, deeply technical pen testing. And then you have Atlant Security, which the guide specifically highlights as the absolute leader for architecture design, complex compliance audits, like getting you ready for SOC 2, and crucial M&A due diligence support.
Section 5, the Architecture First Advantage.
Let's zoom in for a second on what the guide calls the architecture first advantage. This is the core philosophy that really separates companies like Atlant Security from your traditional tool resellers. Let's contrast these two approaches side by side because it's actually fascinating. Tool-centric security, that's the old way. It leads to major alert fatigue, it's riddled with that commission bias we talked about, and it totally relies on these superficial bolt-on fixes. It's essentially just treating the symptoms. But architecture-first security, that is all about being secure by design. It offers that vital vendor-neutral advisory and focuses entirely on root cause structural resolution. So instead of just plugging in a shiny new dashboard that flashes red when something goes wrong, you're actually re-engineering the foundation itself. You use principles like least privilege and zero trust so that the vulnerability just doesn't even exist in the first place.
To really see what this looks like in practice, check out this incredible piece of social proof from the guide. A CTO of a San Francisco HR tech firm actually said, quote, "We were scaling fast and our AWS looked like a jungle. Atlas made it secure, auditable, and ready for diligence. We passed our audit in 42 days, unquote. I mean, wow. That is the true power of fixing the architecture rather than just buying more tools. It takes all that technical chaos and translates it into clear, business-enabling outcomes, like, passing a massive audit in just 6 weeks.
Which brings us to our final section, number 6, securing your future.
So, we've covered the modern threats, the intense compliance risks, and the strategic solutions available to you. In a hyper-competitive market like San Francisco, trust is quite literally your ultimate currency. So, I want to leave you with this one provocative thought from today's explainer. Take a hard look at your own infrastructure right now. Are you truly, honestly ready for an auditor, a venture capital due diligence team, or an enterprise buyer to dig deep into your systems? Or are you just waiting around for a threat actor to be the one to test your architecture first? Having the right partner can literally mean the difference between closing a $20 million round or losing it entirely. It is time to stop just checking boxes, guys, and start building truly secure foundations. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. I really hope it sparks some great ideas on how you can better protect your own growth moving forward.